Hey VC, good morning. It's Mazzy, and I woke up this morning, turned on the VC, saw Dylan from Noble talk about bootlegs. I'll link it below. You need to listen, you need to watch that video because he does a great intro telling you what bootlegs are, but it inspired me to showcase some of my bootleg collection, which I'm going to do. And I have a ton of bootlegs. I'm going to show you Beatles and Dylan. But first, I have so many in digital form that you can see here. I'm not going to obviously go through and play all these, but just look. Now these are mixed in with regular albums, but these are all bootleg albums mixed in. This is my Beatles section, my digital version. And you can see some familiar titles. There are definitely anyway, I don't want to tease you with that music there, but we're going to go into my record room and I'm going to show you some bootlegs. But watch Dylan's video on what bootlegs are. Again, I'm at that age where I kind of grew up when they first hit. He talks about one of the first musical bootlegs is Great White Wonder. And I'm just going to do a brief showing of some of my Dylan bootlegs. Okay, it was called GWW. This is not the first pressing of it, but as you can see, the main label that was doing these at the time was Trademark Equality. And it was just called GWW, and there's actually, after the initial one, these are, this came out originally in July 1969 was the first Dylan bootleg. Then there was a series of them under the GWW moniker. So this is GWW, the John Birch Society Blues and other songs. GWW, While the Establishment Burns. This is a later set, two sets, Zimmerman, when they started doing Xerox covers. Zimmerman and Royal Albert Hall, 1966. You know, this was the impetus for Dylan to do the official bootleg series. So in a way, those pretty much made these obsolete, but they're still great to have. And here's another one. Now this is a cool set. This is a box set called 10 Sword of Swords, or St. Valentine's Massacre. There's also a 10 of Swords, and this one is from, oh, this is the 74, I'm sorry, I'm misspoken. This is the 74 tour, when Dylan toured with the band. I was at I went to two of these shows. Again, there's a trademark of quality. So that's all I'm going to show you Dylan-wise. And my Beatles and solo Beatles is so overwhelming. I'm just going to give you a little mini tour, and obviously not show you everything. But with the Beatles, it started with Get Back, and the first one was a version of Get Back of the first mix that Glyn Johns did, and Get Back with the sessions that turned into what we know as Let It Be, when Phil Spector got the tapes and remixed them. I first got it when I was, 14, 15, I started making my own covers. So it was called, I think, Comeback, K-O-M, like the German Comeback. And I got one without a cover, and I wrote all the song listings in it. So I would make my own covers. This is Get Back Sessions 2, again, more trademark of quality. And before I go into other things, I'm going to progress, because bootlegs got very professional, especially in the last 20-something years, 25, 30 years, where it got to be something like this, which actually looks like an actual record. This was the cover photo that was scheduled for Get Back, and you all know it from the Blue album, the Red and Blue album. This was taken at EMI Studios, EMI House, which was the head of EMI Records and Parlophone Records, which was a subdivision of a smaller division of EMI. Manchester Square in London, And this is looking over the balcony. They recreated the photo that Angus McBean shot for them for the Please Please Me cover. But look at this. Look how great it looks, right? I also have another version. Now this is even more elaborate. The Beatles as Nature Intended. This is put together almost like a press, exactly that almost. It looks like, exactly like a press kit. This is where the bootleggers got really elaborate. This one is addressed, funny enough, to Jackie Lomax, 13 Thornton Road, Leytonstone, London, E11. And you open it up. And it's the album I just showed you. It's the Get Back album with a press kit. It's got a press kit report by Mal Evans. Mal Evans was the Beatles roadie, helper, right-hand man, and it talks about each song in press kit style. It comes with a large poster. And it's the same album. It's basically the Glenn John mix of what the album was going to be. Maybe, I bet you they do a version of this or release this included in the 50th anniversary next year. But I'm just going to go through a handful of these, and they're not in any order just because I got so many. And I won't describe all the music, but a fun one at the time were, again, things from that period, from the Abbey Road and Let It Be sessions. Sweet Apple tracks. This is when they got a little more upgraded covers, you know. They did sort of like a screen cover. As Dylan says, there's so many different various bootlegs. There's live recordings, there's off-board recordings, but in the Beatles, obviously, it was a different situation, mostly audience recordings. Occasionally, a live off the board, but they didn't really do those in those days when the Beatles were performing. But a lot of studio things snuck out of Abbey Road Studios, which was called EMI. So here's just showcasing you some various live shows. Vancouver '64. Following the Beatles. Come and Get It. Come and Get It's the song that McCartney wrote for Badfinger. Shake, Rattle, and Roll Again. Goodbye, song he wrote and Mary Hopkins had a hit with. Again, this is like a manila business folder file concept. This is pretty much how most of them were. They had a slip Xerox cover. Oh, this is a live 1966 shows, I think. Oh, this is a mix. Live at Shea Stadium. I think I have a ton of different lives at the Shea Stadium. This is based on an actual import, but this is a bootleg of a Paris version of a French release of their records. But there were actually French records, which I have here also. Again, rough notes. Decagon sessions. These are basically the Decca audition that the Beatles did on New Year's Day in 1960 and for Decca. And the Decca people said groups of guitars are on the way out. What a shame Mary Jane had a pain in the party, which obviously later turned up on the anthology series. Nakedness on the back. Got nakedness all around, burlesque nakedness. What does that have to do with the Beatles? What a shame, Mary Jane. 20 never published songs, 53 to 69, the Beatles. Had some Christmas stuff, just a variety of different songs, different time periods. Now, there's a whole section. This is the real case that just began, the Beatles. Okay, this is, again, there's a version of Hava Nagila on here, as Dylan did too. But this is Apple Studios, 1969. Again, there's so much made and so much out of the Let It Be, Get Back sessions. And the reason for that is most of you, or some of you may or may not know, is that when you're making a film, when you're making a documentary, everything's recorded on a Nagra recorder. And that's why a lot of the bootlegs you hear a high-pitched beep every few seconds or every 30 seconds or minute. And that's a sync beat, a sync tone, excuse me. That's the tone so they can sync up the audio with the film when they're editing and putting it together, matching it up. So it's much easier to do now, but in those days for live recordings like that, they'd have to have a sync tone. That's why you see the clapper board on a motion picture. That clap is so they can sync up the audio with the video. Casualties, which is kind of a rarities kind of parody with an outtake of the Butcher cover. Well, that's actually the Butcher cover shot. Now, this is one of my favorites, and I have it on CD. Oh, this isn't the one. I'm sorry. There is a great CD bootleg, Strawberry Fields, and ironically, they used a picture from our promo postcard for our book that I took at Strawberry Fields on the... It's flattering when you get bootlegged by bootleggers. So my picture of Strawberry Fields is on the cover of the CD. And what it is, it's every sort of the ongoing creation of the song Strawberry Fields from John's folk acoustic tape, kind of when he was writing it in Spain, when he was filming the motion picture How I Won the War, all the way up to working on it in the studio until the final creation and the final edits of it. And it's something like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, but all these versions of... it's fascinating, and I wish they would do kind of a special legit edition of that, because I think maybe as a bonus or a record store day edition would be kind of fun. In fact, that's my picture. So I've been I took that picture. I know because it's from our postcard, and I know exactly the shot. So Mazzy got boot by the bootleggers, which is kind of cool. Youngblood, early Beatles, live. Watching Rainbows. And another, now this is a promo. It's meant to look like a Capitol promo, but it's a total bootleg. So, later on, the bootleggers got more into, I'm going out of order here. Here's some more early boots. Rare Beatles. Soldiers of Love. Beatles at the Cavern Club. Now, again, I told you I wrote on some of these, so this is super tracks too. Some didn't even have had covers. All they came with was this little Xerox and a plain nothing label. This is more Get Back outtakes. Again, a lot of these have become obsolete because all those digital files I have, but there's nothing like having, as Dylan said, nothing like having, bootlegging Richard Avedon photograph in horrible bad quality. The last live show, this is the Beatles at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Oh man, there's so much stuff here. Okay. Yesterday and Today. What the hell? Actually, Mr. Tour. And that's my writing. Yellow. One of the more famous title Beatle bootlegs, Yellow Matter Custard. And this is one I wrote on the back, all the song titles when I was 14 or 15. Previously unreleased studio material. Here's another one I did, Let It Be, a soundtrack, and I actually went through, and that's me, my printing when I was 15, and wrote all the songs there. God, you could go through. I probably have more Beatle bootlegs than most people have Beatle records, huh? Get back to Toronto. EMI outtakes. Well, let's see if there's anything else worth showing here. Okay. Here's one I found in a used record store, like in the 70s. Someone actually made a homemade cover. This is not the way the bootleg came. So some fan, this is a fan created cover. And they put it over, what is it over? Oh, it's over a Ringo Starr solo album. This is a Christmas. Oh, this is a Christmas this is a Christmas bootleg of the Christmas singles. Heard exclusively on KYA radio, so it's possible a local radio station pressed some copies, but I doubt that. That would, I don't think they'd get away with it either, but look at that. Isn't that great? What the fuck makes this shit? I love it. Melbourne, Australia, Hollywood Bowl. Okay, these were selling at $3.99 when I would buy them in the stores. So these are about $4 back in, say, 1974, 75, a lot of these. Here's where it gets a little more elaborate, where they have a newspaper. Beatle fans talk at stadium. Okay, I think I better, Beatles at Shea Stadium, a little more elaborate. You know, Beatle fans got a little ballsy. Then they started doing picture discs. These are bootleg picture discs. Here's a couple. There's a few more. Picture disc bootleg of the Decca audition. Oh, this is the Decca audition bootleg. Another Beatle picture disc bootleg of the Butcher cover. Another, this is a 1983 Beatles bootleg, another picture cover. So it kind of went on and on and on, as you can see. Talk, okay, the Beatle tapes. David Wigg interviews. I have one of the actual interviews. This is a bootleg of the interviews. You know, get to be a point how many the Beatles talk down under in Australia. Okay, I think you're getting tired of this, so I think we're going to end it there. The main event, Elvis versus the Beatles. Anyway, I haven't even touched my Beatles solo. I have John Lennon bootlegs. I have the complete BBC session on bootlegs, all the BBC tapes unedited. This is Sam Houston Coliseum live, both shows, afternoon and evening concert. And Beatles 20 by 4, more bootlegs. Again, you know, I know people, oh, this is a fun one. This is in Tokyo, at Budokan, 5 nights in a judo arena. You've probably seen the video of that. There are lots of Beatle fans or Beatle freaks that go beyond what I have. And not just go beyond it, they know every little, like, this concert and that concert. And I, you know, frankly, I kind of just have given up on that. So, anyway, that's Mazzy influenced by Dylan at Noble this morning to come down to my record room and showcase that. And we'll end up with the Beatles' Black Album. Embossed. Thanks for watching my bootleg edition. Mazzy loves you, and thanks, Dylan, for inspiring me this morning. Take care, BC.